Hello, my name is Lily Archive, and I talk about fundies and very occasionally other stuff. And today is part 3 of me reading Josh Duggar's sentencing letters, 2 years in retrospect from his actual sentencing. Now, this is part 3, but you definitely don't need to watch part 1 or 2, but you definitely can. And I will have those linked in the description. But today we're going to be covering the letters from Raphael Perez, which is a family friend, Timothy Burris, which is a neighbor, and Lacount Reber, which was the man who allowed Josh to live in his house while he was awaiting trial. So let's jump right in with Lacount's letter. So Lacount Reber is a interesting one. He wrote a brief one-pager. Now, Lacount is, of course, the guy who allowed Josh to live in his home and had Josh and the kids and all over at his home while Josh was awaiting sentencing. Of course, later on into Josh's stay, his daughter started dating Josh's brother-in-law, David Keller, and they got married shortly after. So it was just like an interesting story and happenings of that time. But let's jump right into the letter. My name is Lacount Reber. I am writing on behalf of Joshua Duggar to share with you my personal observations after he came to live with our family this past year leading up to his trial. This living arrangement allowed us to get to know him and his family. Joshua displayed a great amount of patience and kindness as he interacted with his wife and children. Okay, good, I guess. During their visits, I would often see him playing games, reading a book, constructing Legos, playing basketball, throwing a football, or taking walks with his wife and children. Was he sweeping crackers, though? I would like to know. Joshua displayed a great deal of care and consideration as he interacted with them. He would patiently instruct his children, for example, when it was time to clean up toys or tidy the area, by encouraging and walking through the process with them and showing by example what he wanted them to do, patiently following through until the task was completed. It's just normal parenting stuff once again. It's just saying once again, he's a normal guy who in private does these terrible things. He continues on to say, I noticed that Joshua was conscientious about the following rules that were set by the court during his stay with us. He was given very specific guidelines relating to times of departure and return from work. He would set his alarm to make sure he left exactly during the window that he was given. Yeah, I feel like, that's what he was supposed to do, because what I'm assuming he had like a tracker on his leg. I would assume. So yeah, you kind of have to. Okay. I do not recall that he ever violated any guidelines or rules that were set for him. Good. It was interesting to see that Joshua always seemed to have a good attitude throughout the discouraging circumstances that he was facing. His demeanor and interactions with us were always very respectful. Yeah, he usually, I feel like that gives like Josh vibes to have like a good attitude through like this like weird time because he's so fucking cocky. In every situation, he always looked for ways to be helpful. For example, Joshua took the time to clean out our carport and helped us create space so that we could park our cars. He was also willing to help around the house, even with the smallest tasks, like taking out the garbage. On his own accord, he would see a situation that needed some help and would voluntarily pitch in to try to fix it. For example, he saw that our kitchen cabinets needed some attention, so he brought some wood conditioner and put it on the cabinets. Yeah, I hope he was helping you out because you honestly made a lot of sacrifices for him. Somebody, the foreign court, before it was settled that Lacount would be the guardian, that you claimed hadn't really spoke to a lot. They gave up a lot to house him. I know that the daughter wasn't allowed to give piano lessons anymore in the house. I know that they were a little bit weary of Josh being alone with the daughter or the wife, completely alone. So I'm sure Lacount probably had to miss out on a lot of things outside the home to supervise Josh with his daughters. And some people, I get that. It's not like a Mike Pence rule type of thing. If Josh Duggar was around my wife or daughters, I would definitely want to be there. He continues on to say, I know that Joshua helped another family. Is he talking about that damn widow? I'm so tired. Every damn letter talks about this damn widow. I know that Joshua helped another family when he had the opportunity to meet their need by providing a living situation for them. I think, okay, maybe that he's talking about another family then, because I don't think that any other letter mentioned like a living situation. It was just like just general financial help. Anyway, this selfless action reflects a heart of compassion and generosity. Joshua's attitude and actions were a display of kindness and respect towards our family. I would hope so. He was conscientious in following the guidelines and rules of the court down to the smallest detail. Girl, you said that already. He continues, his love and care towards his wife and children was evident in the way he interacted with them. Joshua's selfless actions displayed a heart of compassion and generosity. Was it selfless when he knows that he has all these responsibility and goes committing like heinous crimes, knowing that he could get put away for years and years and years and not be able to be selfless for his wife and 7 children that he created and brought into this world? Anyway, Lacount ends the letter with saying, I would be willing to appear before the court to offer support or provide a verbal statement. I actually don't know if that happened like after sentencing, if Lacount had kind of said his piece there. But anyway, that's Lacount's letter. Let's move on to Raphael Perez. So if y'all are familiar with like the wives of Medicorp, Gabrielle Patton, who is married to Andrew Patton, the Patton family of Arkansas, who are super close with the Duggars. Raphael is Gabrielle's father. I think at one point they probably lived in Arkansas, but he addresses this letter, which I marked out, with a Texas address. So I think that he's moved. One of his daughters is also married to Mike Schatt's son, and Mike Schatt is the guy who got Jill and Derek into mission work. And I know that in their book they were talking about like, we don't want to disappoint like our commitments to Mike Schatt, and so that's kind of all connected here. He writes a 2-pager. He says, Dear Judge Brooks, I have known Josh Duggar for approximately 14 years. Our families first met at the yearly family conference held in Big Sandy, Texas in the spring of 2008. I mean, obviously I don't think the judge knows what these yearly family conferences are, but I personally would be like, if I was Josh's lawyer, I'd be like, don't mention IBLP. That was, of course, it was before like the documentary and everything. He said, my wife and I always enjoyed, his wife, so weird, followed me on Instagram like a few months ago. I was like, that is so strange. But anyway, my wife and I always enjoyed spending time with Josh and his family. He's always had a positive and happy demeanor and always has a word of encouragement with a spirit of willingness to help anyone in whatever way he can. He's cordial, respectful, and exudes a caring compassion, which is a testament of how well his family had raised him. How well his family has raised him, but what does he do in private? So you're saying that they maybe didn't raise him that well? Throughout the years, whenever my wife and I and our children were visiting in Arkansas, okay, I guess they didn't live in Arkansas. I know that Gabby's moved to Arkansas, but maybe she just moved when she got married. Throughout the years, whenever my wife and I and our children were visiting in Arkansas, we always made it a point to get together and spend time with the family. He always made you feel part of the family. I admire and respect how hard he works at the car dealership to provide for his family, and how grateful he is to have such a beautiful family, and how blessed to have such a loving spouse alongside him. She obviously cheating on her and shit, so I guess he's not that grateful. All of this just can be contradicted, like, by what he does in private. Like, all these great things about him being jovial, cordial. You know, you're not so jovial and cordial when you're cheating on your wife in the background. He continues on to say, on a couple of occasions when visiting his business at the car lot, you would find him either fixing some car or assisting some clients, but always found time to make us feel at home. Why were you visiting his, I guess if you're buying a car, but why were you visiting his car lot? It's so weird to me. But that's a stupid point that I'm making, honestly. But let's continue. His attentive spirit is always evident when we got together with other fathers and the family in general, always eager to know how you were doing at work and business, and always ready to help in whatever way he could. He's schmoozing, he's networking, business-wise, girl. My wife and I invariably admired how attentive and caring he was with his family, especially during the times when his wife Anna was nearing the time to give birth. Ever the caring father and husband, he made sure she was always relaxed knowing that he would take care of the kids and made sure the house was clean and well kept, sweeping those damn crackers. Do you guys remember that one time? I think it might have been Michael or Marcus's birth, and he and Jana are like fell asleep on the bed while Anna's like in labor. I thought that was, I don't know. I just like whenever I hear like he's making her relax while she's about to give birth, that's what I think. When you see the family together, you witness the genuine love that they share for one another. The kids roaming about playing, but always returning to their daddy for guidance, comfort, and love. Stop saying daddy. Like, all these letters say daddy. I do not like it. These moments are precious. Yeah, they're so precious that now you're going to have to lose them because you were doing evil shit. Being the grandparent of 10 grandchildren, when my wife and I see how these precious children interact with their daddy, brings tears of joy to our hearts because it reminds us of how special these moments are. That's dramatic as fuck. But anyway, when Josh's oldest son, Michael, came one day to tell his daddy that he also wants to own a car dealership someday, our hearts just melted. We had just witnessed the admiration that this young man has for his father and how special that relationship is. And that honestly is really sad. It's really sad that Michael doesn't have like a good role model, and the person that he wants to be like, he is going to one day figure out is, you know, somebody he doesn't want to be like, I would hope. Seeing this reminded us of how special a relationship Josh has had with his father as well. Girl, if I was Josh's lawyer, I'd be like, edit this, don't mention his father, because Jim Bob has already pissed the judge off in the pre-trial by saying that he's not going to allow certain shit in the courtroom when I don't know. If I was the lawyer, I'd be like, don't mention Jim Bob. You know what I mean? Aside from running his own car lot and dabbling with real estate, he has also gleaned much knowledge working side by side with his father. Having had the privilege of knowing Josh and seeing how he and his wife and children have such a special love for one another, I pray your honor for mercy as you rendered your decision. Thank you for your time and consideration. May God bless you and your family. Raphael, Perez. All right, let's move on to the absolute final letter. So this next letter is a doozy. He goes on for nearly 3 pages. This one is by Timothy Burris. Now in part 2, we read a letter from Nicole Burris. They are neighbors of the Duggars, and she went on to kind of say her story about how Josh had brought over some anti-diarrhea medicine while she was pregnant during COVID. And she kind of went on and on about that. So hers was the longest letter. I think hers went on for 4 pages. He also goes on for 4 pages. Most of these letters are just 1 page. It's very odd that they just decided to go like on and on about shit when they're just like the neighbors. But maybe they're really close. I don't know. So as I'm just like reading this letter, this like first paragraph, he starts, I'm a financial advisor and city council member in Tontitown, Arkansas, and I live with my family on a hobby farm near Joshua Duggar's family. So I guess that's kind of why they chose him, being a city council member and being like of the community. So that makes sense. He says, before we moved to Arkansas, I had the opportunity to attend a men's Bible conference out of state, and it was there that I met the defendant. I didn't know much about him at the time, outside of what I glanced at in grocery store checkout lines. Apparently this man was famous in some circles and was great interest to a large segment of America. He wasn't to me. Okay, girl, just say you're not a fan. Oh, he says it. Okay, next paragraph. Since I was not a fan or regular viewer of the show, I didn't know much about his life. I remember that weekend when I first met him. As I attended meetings and listened to other men share, Joshua would speak up and contribute. I mean, Joshua loves to talk, yeah. After a few days, he cheerfully came up to my table and we spoke for a while. I told him I didn't expect to like him. Why? You just said that you didn't like know anything about his life or like whatever. Did you just not like him because he's like a celebrity or I guess quote unquote celebrity, or like what? It's like a weird thing to say. I don't know. I don't think I would have said that maybe. Okay, Timothy goes on to say he chuckled and responded graciously. Of course, because like Josh loves any compliment, even if it's backhanded. He's eating that shit up. Just a few years after that, I moved to Northwest Arkansas. Okay, so that's interesting because I wonder why he moved to Northwest Arkansas. I've seen some people kind of claim, like locally, that and I don't know if this is true, so I might be talking out of my ass here, but I've seen some people locally claim that, like, sometimes Jim Bob will be like, oh, you should move here, like, I have job opportunities for, like, these homeschool families trying to, like, make more community in the area. It's very odd, but I wonder if they're one of these families, allegedly, that, like, kind of moved to the area because of, like, opportunities in the Christian space, and, like, the big homeschool community that they've kind of curated in the area. But anyway, he continues, when my family and I had few contacts, Joshua and his wife stopped by the house with flowers to welcome us to town. From that moment on, I began a friendship with Josh. I mean, yeah, they're your neighbors. I learned that Josh is a people person. Oh yeah, I bet he is. He loves to be around people. He loves to give to others. He was also very aware of what was going on politically. I mean, yeah, girl, we know. He up there at the Family Research Council. And I was involved, and he was involved in any way he could, often in socially unpopular ways. He followed his Christian convictions, and that made him wildly disliked in certain circles. Still, he remained true to what he believed. I mean, is he remaining true to what he believes in private? Once again, you're watching this terrible, terrible material, and you're cheating on your wife. So, do you stand in your convictions? No, not really. So all of this, like, when I read it, it's like, yeah, but not really. Like, all these good things, but not really, because literally you're doing crazy shit. Even if you want to say, oh, you know, I didn't do this, I didn't watch this material, you still admitted to cheating on your wife. And, like, having an addiction to adult materials, which you know your wife is not okay with and considers, and I'm sure you would consider too, to be cheating. So, it just doesn't make any sense to me, but let's continue. But I also encountered an oddity about his family. While I didn't care who they were or what they did professionally on television, girl, shut up. Like, we get it, you're not a clout chaser. Anyway, and chose not to watch their television show from my Arkansas home. Girl, like, shut up. There were many people who were very aware and passionate about their fame. Quote unquote fame, is what he says. His words, not mine. The Duggars invited my entire family to go to Silver Dollar City with them, and they even offered us the spare tickets which they had. While we anticipated a quiet family day at the theme park, we found that the family was approached hundreds of times by onlookers. People were eager to meet the Duggars, take photos with them, and speak with them about how their lives had been positively changed by the Duggar family. This was not at all what I anticipated for the day, and I can't imagine a life without privacy or quiet. I mean, Jim Bob and Michelle, even if, you know, the children didn't choose this, Jim Bob and Michelle chose that. Like, it's not like poor them, they don't have privacy. They get so many other privileges, such as money, influence, what have you, that they obviously take part in. Now, you can argue, you know, the kids, you know, but, I mean, some of the kids have chosen more private lives. Joseph's chosen a more private life, Josiah. Some of the younger children, I suppose, with not having social media. But, I mean, Jill, Jessa, Jana now, who's back on the internet and posting a lot of vlogs and making money from it, are choosing this life without privacy. It's not, oh, poor Duggar family. The Duggars continue to choose this kind of lifestyle, at least most of them, with the exception of a few. Anyway, he continues, yet Joshua and the Duggar family were continually gracious and kind. We drove up north with them to Branson in their bus. We drove home with them, and we found they were authentically humble and gentle people, whether they were being observed or not. I mean, they're being observed by you, obviously. So, I don't know. Anyway, the years that we have known them since that time has proved nothing contrary. However, we have learned that this family, through their quiet display of conservative values, I don't necessarily think it's quiet. What do you mean quiet display of conservative values? That's crazy. And their outspoken political beliefs, yep, definitely, have inadvertently created a multitude of enemies. While thousands of people have thanked them for presenting a positive example and changing their lives, numerous individuals have made threats on their family. They were photographed secretly wherever they were. Men lurk at their property. Men lurk at their property day and night to get gossip. I wonder if that's true. And if it is true, that shouldn't happen. Nobody should be on their property. I'm glad that they have that system to where people can't get in. They have like the gates and then the vetting system to letting people in. I know in the early days they were kind of letting people kind of come and visit their house. That was incredibly dangerous, especially when you have so many young children. And obviously, like, you can't be, when you have people in your house and you have 18 children, I mean, some adults, let's say 15 children, you can't supervise them all and make sure, nothing unsavory is happening with these visitors you don't really even know. So I'm glad that they now seem to be protecting their privacy a little bit more. But anyway, and even close acquaintances sell them out for a price to tabloids or social media attention. Someone who claimed to be a close friend one year and freely accepts all the Duggar family has to offer, then seeks greater renown by reporting stories about them, true or false. Their children are aware of paparazzi and know that strangers call them by name. They live in a fishbowl. Once again, this whole paragraph it's a pretty long paragraph about how they have no privacy, like, wah, wah. Like, you have continued. Jim Bob made millions of dollars. They have political influence. They obviously are benefiting from this. What does this have to do, his privacy, with literally what he's doing in private that is so evil? Like, I don't know. If I was a lawyer, I would just be like, I don't think this is a good angle to go for your sentencing letter. It's irrelevant. If you're really wanting to seek mercy for Josh, it's truly irrelevant. Like, I think I would be like, even like the whole shit with he has 7 kids, like, get him back to it to take care of his family is better than this bull crap. Let's continue on, though. We went over to babysit the kids when Joshua knew he was being called in by Homeland Security, and we had to keep the blinds closed and keep the children out of the large front yard. Tabloids reported story after story regarding what was going on. Nearly none of it was true. What wasn't true? Like, the little details, I guess, but, like, I don't know. Okay, he keeps on going on. I would never want to live like that. I like privacy and simplicity. Okay, you chose privacy and simplicity and didn't parade your whole family out there for everybody, but Jim Bob and Michelle didn't. They didn't. And I guarantee you, if Josh never got caught, he'd still be out here on TV. He'd still be on Twitter. He'd still be in politics. I frankly like that I can have a grumpy moment, which won't be displayed before the entire world. So why does this family put up with this peculiar way of life? They can't go to a grocery store uninterrupted. If they were to have a toddler meltdown in Walmart, it would make the evening news. No, it wouldn't. Please. They have thousands of people who not only make public and written threats, but who try to find ways to bring them down. Me. I'm just kidding. Whether their claims are true or false. Would any sane man choose this life? Okay, this is a bunch of bullshit. Josh didn't choose this life for his family, and he certainly didn't anticipate these long-reaching consequences of notoriety. Josh, if this is like what Josh is like spouted to this quote-unquote close friend, literally, obviously you were 20 years old when the show started. You didn't have to be on the show. I mean, I guess Jim Bob probably was like, girl, be on the show. But after a while, if you didn't want to be on that show, unless he wants to come out and say he had a contract situation similar to Jill, but you know what? You didn't have to go into politics. That was definitely his choice. He didn't have to be on social media. He was a very prolific social media user before he was caught cheating on his wife and essaying his sisters as a youth. I mean, Joshua, of course, you can say, maybe he had a contract that was kind of shady, but, like, he didn't have a contract to do politics, for sure not. He didn't have to do that. He chose a lot of this. Probably more than a lot of the other children chose a lot of his quote-unquote notoriety. Let's continue. However, he continued in his public lifestyle so that he could extend a biblical message of hope to others. He doesn't claim that his family is perfect. Well, I mean, he literally can't. He said he cheated on his wife. He got caught. So yeah, I would hope he doesn't claim that. In fact, he was willingly and publicly admitted to past sins and errors. Yeah, he did that. He could admit to that because cheating's not a crime. And he was caught. Like, obviously they needed to do a little PR spin to keep the show. And then obviously statute of limitations was out on the essay of his sisters. I mean, there was no denying that he did that because he admitted to it already in the past, because basically he was forced to, and then he has all these witnesses against him. So it's not really the same thing. Like, for this one, he is facing extreme jail time. The other ones, he was not. And he had, forces, that were like, hey, it would be good if you would admit to this. In this case, that's just not the case. Let's continue. Yet he shares his struggles in overcoming and has ministered to countless others through that. Men who have battled in the same sins that Joshua has admitted to, and marriages which have been devastated by errors, have found encouragement by Joshua's commitment to improve himself in his marriage. He believes that authentically sharing his life and encouraging others is worth the sacrifice of his privacy and worth making himself a target to others with specific political agendas. Josh has no pull in politics anymore. There is no specific political agenda. Like, nobody's trying to take Joshua's power away because he has none. And that's stupid. Going on, being involved in local government here in Arkansas has allowed me to see that there are some evil men in positions of power. So he's going into, I guess, kind of the situation with saying that there is some kind of political agenda that has leveled these accusations against him, I guess. I honestly don't remember this letter being like this out there. He continues, I've seen political figures with secrets to hide, with whom lies are a natural and easy part of conversation, and who hide their morally corrupt lives. I've seen this, and it was so discouraging and devastating to witness that I nearly resigned from all political service. Joshua was not among these evil men. Well, Joshua was somebody who hid his morally corrupt life in several different occasions before it was literally pulled out of him. It's not like he came to everybody. I mean, from what I remember, it's not like he came to Anna and said, hey, I was on this website, blah, blah, blah. It was kind of gone through and counting on the first few episodes that she found out with the rest of the world. So yeah, he was living his morally corrupt life in private from everybody. And so Joshua is among these evil men. And then here in this situation, it's not like, I mean, I really doubt he was like to Anna, hey, I did this disgusting stuff. And if he did, shame on her, quite frankly. But, I mean, it's not like he turned himself into the authorities. The Bible talks about the law of country, I believe, not being over the law of God, but you do have to make things right with the law of whatever country you're in. Let me continue on. Yet he made himself a political enemy of men like that, and that does bear consequences. And even still, he hasn't resigned from service like I was tempted to do. Resigned from political service, I'm pretty sure he has, unless he's like doing some consulting, which who the hell is hiring him to consult? Let's move on. When Joshua was first released from prison for his criminal accusation, I reached out to him and came to visit him at a house that he was renovating. Okay, so I guess that he was working in renovations while he was waiting trial. I brought lunch as he was unable to travel freely due to an ankle monitor. Okay, there confirms for the Lacount Reber kind of discussion I was having earlier in the video, yes, he had an ankle monitor on. And he was committed to walking obediently to the court's request. Yeah, because what's the other option? You're living at this sweet house on this sweet property with freedom. You can see your wife. You can hang out with her. You can see your parents. Or you can go and you can, fuck up and ignore the rules and go to jail for however many months while you await trial. So, what? Obviously, he's going to follow the guidelines. I saw him and asked what was up. He responded simply with, well, I didn't do what they said I did. Of course he said that. But went on to share how he was growing in God, what sermons he was listening to and was challenged by, and how his family was holding up. He was humble, he was transparent, and despite this awful situation, he remained others focused. He freely admitted to his past sins and yet gently maintained his innocence. I wonder if it was so gentle regarding his predicament. He didn't whine or fight or flee or shout. Yeah, because, what else are you going to do? He merely maintained his innocent status and continued to work to serve others who would dare be associated with him. Continue to work and serve any others who would... work part, I'm sure he was working for one of his brothers. But this, again, is kind of this whole situation where when he owned up to his past quote-unquote sins, it's a very different situation with very different risks that he has to own up to this current situation. This is also by far the worst thing he's ever... arguably, the essay of his sisters, but this is terrible, 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 terrible stuff. And it's also, it's no longer, hey, I was 13. I am 30. I'm in my 30s. I have 7 children of my own. I'm doing this crap. So it's just a very different situation to his past sins, and it's a very different situation for him to own up to it and to admit to it. Let's continue on. Joshua loves to connect with people. He loves to serve people. He has passion on those who are suffering. Did he have passion on those who were suffering in these videos? And I guess it's this guy allegedly doesn't believe he did that. So I guess that point is no, but let's go on. It was this that led him to hire an okay. I didn't realize that they mentioned, not by name, but mentioned Caleb Williams and that whole thing in these letters. This is the final letter, so this is the only letter that mentions him. But let's continue on to what he has to say about Caleb Williams. It was this that led him to hire an unscrupulous young man with a history of harm to minors, who he thought needed a second chance, in an isolated way, away from those who could be harmed. Unfortunately, those who are gentle and pure tend to think all are that way. Okay, okay, please. And his lack of knowledge about the evil of others. I think he's fully aware of the evil of people, because it is in him. But anyway, may have created his current problem. Personally, so let's say, he's working at the car lot. He lets this guy who has a history of, sexual abuse against teenagers. I have a preteen daughter, and, all these letters are talking about how the kids come to work. I'd be like, yeah, I'm not letting him work here. Personally, I just think it's very weird that you, and when I say you, Josh, wants to associate himself with people who commit SA crimes against minors. Very odd. That's very odd. I don't get that. I personally don't want to associate with people. I believe in forgiveness, but I don't necessarily... I think that when people show you who they are, I think that you should believe them. The essay of the minor in question at the time of him hiring him was not that far ago. There's not that much time to make those differences. If those differences could even be made, it's silly to me. I don't know. It just seems like a really dumb situation. And I honestly don't know why he did that. Maybe they're just good buddies or something. Let's move on. To legally punish and destroy anyone who would harm a child should be our country's primary moral priority. However, it should be, but it shouldn't be. However, you should be aware that there are many people, movements, and groups that believe that to destroy the Duggar family would be an equivalent moral success, as the Duggars stand in the way of the lifestyles that they wish to promote. I just don't think that they have political power like that at this point. I mean, look at the recent elections of Judd and Jim Bob that have been lost. The Duggars, especially when Josh was at FRC and the time before that, shortly before that, they were at so many different political events. That's why you see so many pictures of Josh with people, political Republicans in power, and Jim Bob with people. Is because they were at so many events, networking with those folks, and they just don't have that power anymore. I think that people will call bullshit, and there's just too much crap surrounding them. The only thing is that they have a lot of people voting in Arkansas for sure, but I don't think that anybody's really concerned about that. Let's continue on. While Mr. Duggar's guilt has already been determined by this court, I ask you to look at the entire character of this man. A man who has been unable to have any secrets since his preteen years. I don't think you should have secrets like these. But let's continue. And consider the fact that he has had nowhere to hide and will continue to have no privacy in the future. Well, he was doing this with this no privacy. He could do it again. And my thing is, I'm sure that these charges and these times they say that he downloaded this material, I'm sure that those were the times they could absolutely pinpoint that, oh, this was Josh Duggar who was doing this. I'm sure this was not his first time looking at this stuff. So I'm sure there's plenty of times that he did this and got away with it. But let's move on. If he were in fact guilty to the fullest extent of the law, boundless evidence would have surfaced and could serve to convict him at any time in the future. If, however, there is any chance at all that his current situation seems in your eyes to stand in stark contrast to his character, his past behavior, the lifestyle he proclaims to advance, and even his willingness to confess to any past missteps, I ask you to hesitate as you deliberate and be compassionate in your sentencing. No legal system can be perfect, but it should aim to be. It should examine the enemies who may seek to profit from a man's downfall. Nobody, literally nobody seeks to profit from this. It should regard a man's life's work to see if the accusation matches up with the nature of the man. I understand that Joshua's conviction was made by a jury of his peers with the information they were presented, but you, as the authority over justice, can consider the integrity of the man as those around him see it, and I still can't say this word, abdicate mercilessness in favor of hope and redemption. Josh spends his days now leading men's Bible study in prison twice each day and a nightly prayer call with numerous other inmates. As he continues to serve the men around him, I ask you to consider if his actions truly match the nature of this man as he has been presented to you. I have spoken to him since his incarceration. His current behavior does absolutely represent the character of the man that I have come to know as a friend. He's a father of 7. Again, stop saying he's a father of 7. If I hear he's a father of 7, I'm locking him away forever. A loving husband, an outgoing friend to all, an outspoken Christian, a man who is always willing to help out others and extend to them a second chance and a life of purpose, even if it costs him everything. Please show compassion on Joshua Duggar as you determine your sentence. With my best regards and gratitude, Timothy A. Burris. All right, guys, that's the final letter here. We've gone through all of them. This is part 3. I appreciate you guys watching. I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. Let me know what you think about these particular letters, and if you have any other points to add that I didn't get to. Bye, guys.